Hello!
Hi.
How is everything, chat? Hopefully everything is okay. I slapped the scene together last minute this morning, so... I thought it would be best to use Shija's garden since I had just made it, and it is very nice. And who knows when I'll next use it. Yeah. That's what I spent like half my morning doing. Setting up this table.
So is this the stream where we discuss why Yushi is just Cygnus?
Yes. You're not wrong. It's definitely very similar characters.
Thought never occurred to me, and then I went and visited the archive website, and Fair Trade sitting right above Mysteria, and yup, it's just Cygnus.
Yeah. Visually, it did pull a little bit from Cygnus as well, so. I'm oddly nervous for this. I don't know why. Feels very similar to a VTuber debut. Why is chat all the way over there? What the fuck? Let me fix that. Get over there. I moved it together. It shouldn't have moved, but whatever. It's also very tiny. Make it bigger. Scuff on stream? Never! I would never do that.
100% normal stream and nothing is wrong.
Yeah. I figured we let the scuff get out of the way first. Before we dive too deep into the celebration antics.
I hear your cup in the background. What is your drink of choice for the day?
Paris tea. Paris black tea specifically. I've had a green tea before.
I need to make myself some tea later. Probably not now because it's stream's going, but I don't have a kettle of water with me right now, so I'll go do that later.
I'll read the characteristics on the tea tin. This tea tastes sweet like caramel and fruity flavor black currants. You can also taste a hint of vanilla, which is very accurate.
That sounds amazing right
now.
It
is so yummy. I love it. It's one of my favorites. I usually get, I think the green tea version. Or it's not always a black tea version that I get, but I have loose leaf in black tea form because I think the last time I went they didn't have the tea sachets that I normally get, which I think is different base tea, but same flavor.
I'm going to have to experiment more with teas because I have an electric kettle now, so hot drinks is not a hassle to do.
Yeah, I have that with me on my desk.
I've got the hot plate down here, but the kettle is upstairs, so.
Yeah, I figured I'd top off my kettle and have tea at the ready, since my voice likes to be silly, and it might be a thing with my my permanent condition, so we'll see. I got my humidifier going, I've got tea, I had a little bit of soup. It's kind of cold now next to me, I only ate like a little bit of it. Just not super hungry in the mornings usually, so. But yeah.
So, a year anniversary of starting to publish Fair Trade.
Yeah. It's been a year now. Exactly. Since I posted the first chapter on my website.
How long were you working on it beforehand?
It wasn't super long. It was only a couple months, I think.
suppose a better question would be, how long were these characters swimming around in your head before you started putting them down?
Shuya was the character I've had the longest. Shuya used to be an OC for something else.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna elaborate on that. But I used to use Shuya in a fan fiction, and
Right.
I have transferred a few plot points over from there. Not a ton, but a few fun stuff.
Do you have anything to talk about at the moment, or are you going to go straight into community questions?
I mean, I have a whole document of like 7 pages of notes, so I can do either, honestly. It might be good to do Q&A first, though, in case I cover some question, though.
I figured that would be the case. Let's see what the
Yeah.
Q&A brings.
Don't you worry, I got that. Boom, marshmallow. Turn on. There we go. So the first question I got. Let me make this a little bigger. There we go. What should we do? I meant to do this earlier, but I forgot.
Teardrop.
Why does that look weird? Hopefully it's fine. I forgot. The fucking Discord doesn't like when I have my thing upscaled 1 billion times over because I'm blind as fuck. There you go. Now you can see OBS. You don't have to wait for a delay or anything.
You may need to change your scene because I think OBS hates me.
Yeah, it looked a little funny when I did it. Let me just share the full screen. Yeah, I don't know why it looks like that. It looked funky. Let's just do that. Cooperate, you bitch! Fucking hell. Yeah, we'll do
There
like
we go.
that. Oops. I don't know why you're like this. Anyway, now you can see.
Alright.
Yeah. To see my
Yeah.
scuffed layout of things too.
I can go ahead with reading out the questions. Are there multiple major story arcs planned or just the current one?
I have multiple. I've been I know like the current stuff seems like it's kind of reaching a sort of definitive end, but it's not. I have a lot planned for the story. I lost my train of thought. As I do. My stories are never short. Even if I try to make them short, they're not.
I did see the chapter count on Mysteria, yeah.
Yeah, I should post more of that. Even if I'm not like working on it actively, there's still like 20 chapters to post.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're reaching the end of the first like big story arc. The next one's not going to be super big, but there's a couple big ones here and there. It alternates a little bit.
Right, and I think we're good for the next one if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll pull that up real quick. There, let's just go in order of what I have there.
All right. What was your original inspiration for the story? How did you expect things to go, and what changed along the way?
A lot changed, actually. Let me scroll down to that, I guess. Now it's a big chunk of my notes here. Original inspiration, I have quite a few, actually. It comes from more than one source, but I'd say one of the biggest ones would be you know, I have my notes here for this. This was also something I included in my notes. So I think for how long has it been since I've watched it? Maybe 3 or so years ago, maybe more, give or take. I don't know. I don't remember when I actually started. I had really gotten back into reading because of Heaven Official's Blessing. That's what got me back into like reading fiction and whatnot. And I also was reading the 2 other books by the same author, Model Zushi and Scum Villain's Self-Saving System. And they're all like Chinese novels, if you aren't aware of what they are.
Yeah, I briefly looked up stuff relating to Heaven's Official Blessing because I was recommended it.
Yeah,
so
it's very good.
I do need to when I have the free time to finally look into that.
Yeah, we on the watch along we finished the first season, so you probably want to catch up on that if you want to join us for season 2 at some point.
Yes, I missed the first watch along that had it, and then I straight up just decided to not join the second one because I was like, I need to get that caught up.
Yeah, which is fine. I don't know when we're gonna watch the next season, but we will at some point. I don't know what this next week's plan is for shows. We'll find out.
It needs to be there's watch along suggestions. There should be an active list going on there of things.
Yeah, we should update that. Maybe later.
Yeah, make it a thread or something.
Yeah. Distractions. Anyway, so I've also been, for a while now, I've been reading other books other than just stuff from that author because I've pretty much finished everything. I haven't actually finished reading Model Zushi, but very, very close. But that kind of inspired the base like style for this series. Kind of very like heavy Chinese influence and whatnot for like as far as the setting goes. But as I said earlier though, there was quite a bit had derived from the fanfiction that Shuya was part of originally. And a little bit of that has trickled through. It has changed quite a bit though from since then.
Would you say where it is now is like second iteration or third, or how many loops have you jumped through to revise things into where it is now?
Technically it would be the third iteration, more or less, because I actually have 2 chapters that were kind of like a revision of some of the that was not too dissimilar from the fanfiction but a little bit different. And then Zen suggested to me an like entirely different start to the plot, and I was like, ooh, I like that a lot more. And And so I kind of rolled with that, and it is very different since then.
Would that be start to the plot as in the original meetup, or would that be start to the plot as in some other events that have already occurred?
The original meetup is definitely different from the initial writing, because so in the initial version, Yushi was already gonna, or Yushi was gonna be full dragon, and he was, as emperor, he was only known for his dragon form. So as his human form, it was completely unknown, and so that's what he would sneak out of the palace as. But I thought the way like Zen had established it a little bit in the initial idea was a lot more interesting to me, because I kind of liked the idea of I kind of wanted to like switch it to be a little more normal at the time. Both, and then I like went back on that and decided magic is fun. I can't resist a little bit of magic.
I think slightly hidden magic world is definitely a better way to go for that. I have seen, if I had to compare it, I have seen Dragon Emperor type stuff done before, and I think this is probably a much better approach to it if you're trying to create inner royal family to more commoner approach or noble approach.
Yeah,
the series that came to mind was a webtoon. Oh, what's it called? Let me take a look. I don't know if you know which one I'm talking about.
It's been a while since I've read webtoons, so I don't know if I do.
Probably don't. We'll see. Yeah.
I might. There is a couple that I thought that I can think of.
Sub-Zero.
Yeah, I did start reading that. I never got super far into it, but I did like that one quite a bit.
That one very heavily plays into the dragon aspect. But I think based on how you're writing the story and how the characters are interacting, the subtle elements of dragons is a better approach to it than outright just being dragons.
Yeah. And I felt like it was a good opportunity for Yushi to have a little more character growth throughout the story, because in the initial version, it's just like he didn't really have that much room for growth aside from emotional relationship, you know, all that. So that was like one of the big changes of it all too. And initially, like, I wasn't gonna do a whole ton into like the magic-y stuff. Like, it was gonna be there, it's gonna be a little bit here and there, but when I decided to add in Jinsei, it became a little more apparent to add that in a bit more, and then especially with Shija's abilities, that was something Zen had kind of like propped up as well, was the idea of the moon touched, and that was like when I was like, okay, I gotta like figure out some of the stuff, like how to introduce a little bit more touch of magic to it, and Jinsei was a really good option for that. Being a divine beast, he's a lot more a good source for like the magical side of things, just to like sprinkle it in slowly,
and then having oh, why do names escape me? They should not be doing this.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. That's just what happens. Uh, and then having Shize be the bridge between magic and mundane is definitely a great tool to help people understand where the common perspective is versus what is truly unknown to even the most learned people in the world.
Yeah. Where's my plot changes? Because there's been a lot over the time. Well, only a handful when I actually wrote it out, but it seems like a lot in my brain. So some of this may be a little spoilery for anybody who isn't caught up, because a lot of the changes are in some of the more recent chapters. So if you're trying to avoid spoilers, now's your time to either like mute or step away for a bit.
Alternatively, if you want to just save them for now, you can revisit them later when you have a chance to, say, second anniversary or whatnot.
That's true. Yeah, because there's a lot of like details that has changed in the more recent chapters specifically. A lot of stuff gets moved around quite a bit. Sometimes it gets pushed a lot earlier, if I'm gonna do this a little more vague. Because my fingers like to do stuff on their own sometimes when tippy tapping stuff out. Because I have like major plot points set along the way, and sometimes I will sometimes when I feel like the story's getting a little stagnant, I'll move stuff up a little bit. Like the way this current arc started, that was supposed to be a little later. It was gonna be a lot, but I just like felt like it was getting a little too slow, a little too stagnant. I was like,
yeah,
I really gotta like push this along a little more, get a little more oomph in there. So, thus the current arc had started.
I was gonna say, I think I know exactly what you're referring to, and yeah, that definitely is in line with how you push that arc forward.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't seem like the overall timeline seems a little too pushed through that stuff, because again, that was supposed to be a lot later in the timeline. Well, not a lot later. It was the next plot point, but I don't know, it felt like just the idle stuff of just the little dates, little giveaways. They just didn't see it. It was getting boring to me anyway.
Yeah, well, it would have ended up being very samey after well, because you did at least 2 dates, I believe, and then you started mixing them up, and I think from that point forward, you've been dancing around, not neglecting any characters in particular.
That's
letting each character in the story that you've introduced have time to breathe and do things related to the plot.
Yeah, I really like including the side characters a lot more in my stories, as was seen with Mysteria quite a bit, because I feel like often side characters get overlooked in a lot of series, and usually side characters tend to be a lot of people's more favorite characters. So I like to try and have like a few chapters here and there that kind of include them, and I have plans for them. So that's a big part. And like I don't like my characters to feel like super flat or anything like that too. So having side character opportunities helps develop them a little more too. Let's see, is there anything else that I could be a little more vague about the plot point changes? Skimming my notes. Like I said, I have 7 pages on a lot of this stuff. Oh yeah, a lot of the latest chapter I shared, the latest chapter that's public anyway, that was definitely not planned. It was not planned for right away. But I also didn't have a point to exactly put it. I didn't have like a definitive point, like this has to go here. Unlike my plans for a couple other characters.
This is 23, yeah?
Yes, 23.
I think it's a very good bridging chapter. It needed to happen.
Yeah.
I do think it's probably exactly where it needs to be. The lead into and then I will say the lead out of it work pretty well.
Yay. I'm glad. Because like, that just like, that was something my fingers just took over and was like, we're doing this now. I'm like, okay. But yeah, I didn't have like anywhere else to put it. So I was like, I'll leave it in. It's fine. It wasn't a very, I didn't have like prerequisites that I needed for it. They're very cute. Had to do it.
Yes.
Had to be done. And thus the use for this garden was born. But yeah, that was one of the cases of my thingies taking it away and doing what they wanted to on their own.
Well, you've been hinting at her name, Xinhua. Returning for the last 22 chapters. So having her come in now is probably better than having her just be invisible during the entire first arc, even though she supposedly plays a very important part.
She does.
And tying her work back to other plot points. Not in this chapter, I believe, but a couple other chapters from now works pretty well.
Yeah, the plan for her to return was actually gonna be during the next arc that I have planned right now. But I don't know, it worked out timing wise. I feel like with how I was writing it, I was kind of writing myself into a corner a bit. So I was like, go ahead and do this. This will be fine.
Yeah.
It just all kind of worked out a little bit. Another thing, this isn't super spoilery, I don't think. Shijo's and Jinsei's interactions weren't super planned either. That was also something that kind of just happened, but I was like, I kind of like their dynamic. They're just two little schemers, little meddlers, causing mischief together.
Their whole relationship is entirely on scheming. So it makes sense that they would do that well together.
Yeah, just like, I don't know, they have like fun, like secret bestie vibes, kind of. I don't know. I kind of like writing their dynamic.
Secret psychic bestie vibes.
Yeah. And then it also allows me to like trickle in the magic a little more too, by their interactions together. So, yeah.
All right, I think now is a good time to move on to the next question.
Yeah, we've been on this one for a while. Like I said, a lot of this changed over the 2 years time. That's actually a good segue.
This is a very good segue. Are there any characters that feel easy to write for? And then what about characters you have trouble with? So to start off, characters that are easy to write for, the two you were just talking about, their dynamic was easy to write for, but in particular, are either of them relatively difficult?
Sometimes Jinsei can be a little bit, because he's a very like multifaceted kind of character. He's very dynamic. Initially his concept was more he was more just supposed to be kind of frivolous, didn't care about anybody but Shuya. But I don't know, like as I was like started writing him, I was like, I kind of like him having like a secret soft spot for just about anybody. He's just like a little sweet boy on the inside, fierce, mischievous boy on the outside. You know, it was so I think he might be the more troublesome to write sometimes, because I don't want the like switch up between the two sides of him to be too much whiplash, you know.
Yeah.
And I hope I've been portraying that very well.
I think the balances you've had to strike with him are definitely working. It is a very tricky balance, because if you allow him to switch up at the correct times, while also being in his more caring state than others, most notably actually in a chapter I don't think is out yet.
Is it 28?
Is a very it might actually be 28.
Yeah, 28's been a little difficult to write. That's the one I've been freaking out over in Discord lately. I had to pause writing it. At least kind of around those chapters. The last couple chapters.
Yeah, I think that is 28. Yeah, that is the prime example, I think, where that switch up has to happen. I think most of it has been pretty much off-screen type of stuff, where you hear the actions and where the switch up happens, but you don't see it.
Yeah, it's been more subtle to start out with, because like I didn't want it to be like super in your face when we had his first interaction with Shija. But yeah.
Anyone else that you think is super easy to write about or write for?
Shuya is very easy to write for. In all his traumatic glory. Poor baby. I've traumatized that being too much.
You sat on him long enough.
Yeah. He's just a little sad boy. Trying to think of who else is really easy to write for. I feel like Yu Liang comes across super easy when I'm writing her, oddly enough. She's an interesting character to write for sure, but I think she flows very nicely when I do write for her. She just seems like very serious, cold character, but she cares a lot about everything.
Yeah. She's got a lot of good practical thoughts and opinions on the current state of things.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe not the the wherewithal to handle all of it at once.
Yeah. I feel like she's just like a very good contrast to a lot of the characters too. It's like she just like kind of helps slow down the manic sometimes. The manic energy.
That is nearly everyone.
Yeah. Her and Ryuuna are good for that. Though Ryuuna was getting a little too influenced by Yushi lately.
Yeah, I can see that one.
They've been besties for a long time, so it's bound to happen.
So any characters that you have trouble writing for, Jinsei as the exception, because we've already talked about him.
Yeah. Trying to think. I feel like sometimes the Stylianis are a little hard to write for, both of them. Just because I haven't like written enough with them, I think. Because they're only in a couple chapters.
They are very interesting plot devices at the moment. They are not really characters, for better or for worse. But that's mostly because we haven't had too much interaction with them. We get vibes, but from the most part, there isn't much behind it beyond that. And I think a chapter or two focused on them specifically, when they're not trying to burrow their way into the palace, would do them a lot of good in the character development department.
Yeah, I was considering doing a chapter with them soon-ish. I don't know when, but at some point.
It would be interesting considering they're standing with pretty much everyone in play right now.
I sometimes like doing like antagonist focused chapters, because as seen with Mysteria, if you've ever gotten that far, because it's pretty far into it before I actually start doing antagonist chapters.
I don't even remember where I'm at in Mysteria. I need to like pinpoint the vibes of where I'm at and then like go from there.
Yeah. I know I've neglected that this past year. Fair trade has me in a chokehold.
Yep.
But yeah, I feel like probably when I do actually get around to doing like a focus chapter on them, it'll definitely be a lot easier to write for them. Trying to think of other characters. The general tends to be a little difficult for me too. Also, I think for the same reason, he's only been in like a couple scenes. I have like.
I was gonna say I don't even remember the general's appearance.
I think I've only drawn him once, and it was in a picture. It was a picture of Shisha fangirling. He's just like a little chibi. Let me see if I can find it really quick, because I did all of the upper court in that, but I didn't actually let me pull it up on stream. It's gonna be really big. Let me find it. Click on that so it loads. Make available offline. Okay. There we go. It's been a while since this picture was a thing.
Oh yeah, that.
Anyway, down here is all the upper court members. This is the general. The one in the middle. Yeah. The one smack dab in the middle.
Who is bottom left?
So these two I haven't really mentioned yet at all in the story. This one right here is Mingmai. She is the she's the Minister of Public Works, I believe. She handles a lot of the, like, God, what's the word I'm looking for?
Festivals, fair stuff.
No, that's Shija, actually. That's why Shija usually has a lot of free time. Where is... Did I write it down in my proper notes? It's a lot of, like, what's the thing I'm thinking of?
Infrastructure and whatnot?
Yeah, infrastructure, that's the word. I don't know why I couldn't fucking think of that. But yeah. That's a lot of what she deals with. And then, a lovely golden boy here. His name is Gwen Chunji. And he's the Minister of Finance, which I think speaks for itself. He's the money man. But yeah, this is the rest of the upper court. I think I briefly mentioned Mingmai in some of the chapters you've probably read. I think I was.
It's got to be late.
Yeah, it might be the latest chapter I was writing. I don't know. I don't remember.
But
yeah,
I found it.
I've literally only mentioned her once, and I haven't mentioned Chunji at all. But we'll get there eventually. They'll pop up at some point. Which haven't been, like, super relevant to the current situation.
Oh, no, there we go. 26.
Mm-hmm.
And then 21. And then chapter 5.
Oh, I did. Interesting.
When discussing the contracting of farms or the herbs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she handles a lot too. She's also one of the busy ones. One of the more busy ones, anyway.
Most of the core shenanigans.
Yeah. She's a sweet little being, though. I hope to get into some of the more details about the upper court whenever I actually get around to writing the side story for Yushi's backstory and whatnot.
I assume you'll have to pull them all aside one by one as each arc comes by, so...
Yeah, that was kind of the plan for that, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, as far as characters go, of what's currently out, I feel like that about covers what's easy and what's not.
Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah. Good fun. Magic and fortune telling and all that fun stuff. I actually haven't like touched on it too much into the story itself, since I'm kind of like trickling it in here and there. So Shija's fortune telling, it comes a little bit from some of the typical like Chinese fortune telling stuff. A lot of it has to deal with math and stars and all that fun stuff. And so that's kind of why I started incorporating her ability itself to be reading the stars. And that comes from her blessing from the moon goddess, which is why she is moon touched. Moon touched. I actually like kind of wrote a little bit on the mythology recently. But specifically the moon goddess. So there's a whole lot of drama with her in the heavens. I might get into it later. I don't know. We'll see. But essentially, she very much likes to help humans. And so she occasionally sends down her blessings to various humans once they are born. And Shija's ability to see the future kind of stems a little bit from that, but it also has kind of evolved from typical Chinese fortune telling, which a lot of the like times when I mention other fortune tellers, it's going to be more of that, the like typical fortune telling, which is mostly just like prediction of patterns and whatnot. But for her, she is actually magic based in hers as well, kind of, sort of.
And similarly, Jue. No. Names always elude me. Why is this happening?
They're complex names too. Their pronunciation's never as you perceive them.
Oh, here's an easy way to do it. I'm just gonna go to the Patreon and then click on a name. And is this the right one?
Oh yeah.
Nope. So Jue. Similarly, Moon Touch. His inherent power is not discussed for a long time. It's alluded to in certain chapters.
Yeah.
But the actual discussion of his power is not distinctly said until a chapter that is not out yet.
Yes.
But he also works under the blessing of the moon goddess.
Yes, so there is a very have I established this yet? Wait, fuck.
The give and take of the powers.
That is also a thing, yeah. So I wanted to like balance that out a little bit, because you know, Shija being able to like see the future and all that just seems like sometimes that's like an overpowered ability. So I wanted it so that she had some sort of drawback. So, and I thought since it was more or less moon was kind of the theme for it, having a drawback be essentially like the dark side of the moon. I thought that would be a fun analogy for it.
Of course, that being the only drawback is not entirely the case in this situation. She's being hit with all sorts of fun things that she's not had to deal with before.
Yeah. But that is kind of a separate thing. Jinsei, he is a lovely magical fox, so he do have his means of protecting himself and whatnot from other magical beings, and that's why she can't really perceive him when she tries to read the future, or it comes across very different in her visions. But back to the moon touch before I get too much into actual magic stuff. So having Shija's drawback be that she can't like directly speak what she's seen in her visions, else she gets she's caused pain. I thought that would be a good way to nerf her a little bit. But she still finds a way to communicate it to those she cares about. And since the upper court knows her very well, they've kind of gotten used to like deciphering her little riddles, her little haikus and whatnot. Which also was a good chunk of that was Zen's idea too. Zen influences quite a bit.
Zen is a weaving storytelling spider, so that checks out.
She's helped me a lot with especially in the very beginning. She helped me establish quite a bit. But for Shuya, the idea was to have his ability be more subtle, something that wouldn't be directly noticed. And as such, I also wanted the drawback to be a lot more subtle too. And it explains a lot of his experiences through life as well, to a degree. Not to get too much into it for anybody who hasn't quite delved down that yet. Also, I don't remember exactly what all I've said. I tried to skim through the story again this week.
The majority of the discussion behind Juya's ability is in latter chapters,
yeah,
and hinted at in the earlier ones. But for the most part, once you do read it, you'll understand exactly where his situation comes from. And it leaves it very open to will Juye be able to address this and attempts to I wouldn't say control it, but adapt to it.
There is plans.
There is plans.
I won't get too much into it, but it's kind of come up a little bit in my brain. It floats around sometimes. It rattles around in the noggin. To what extent? We'll see, because some of the idea of it might be an after story thing. But I don't know. I'll see what how my thingies develop a little bit of that part. But it'll be much later if I do get into that, kind of towards the end of the story.
And then Yushi sits in a fun, unique situation where he's kind of like Jinsei.
So, that will unfold slowly. The next, it'll be kind of sprinkled in over the next like couple arcs. I actually wrote a scene in my little draft document. Because one day I was just like feeling very inspired about it, so I do have the details of like kind of how that's gonna come about as far as being revealed. But yeah, so I guess a good way to get into the next portion of like some of the magical stuff would be going over divine beasts themselves. So divine beasts are usually creatures that have either developed magical power or been around long enough to become strong, much like yokai legends, you know? How, like, if something's around, it is old enough for, like, 100 years or some shit, it becomes magical, more or less, you know? That kind of stuff. I don't have this exactly, I haven't established too much behind that. But yeah, so Jinsei himself, he's a very highly magical divine beast. Caused all sorts of mischief over the years. He's old. Very
I was
old.
gonna say, could be also stated as he's old as shit.
Yes. So he knows a lot of magical stuff. And especially with his thirst for knowledge, which has gotten him into trouble, as I have kind of established a little bit with his meeting with Shisha. That's why he protects his presence from being known for as far as future and past goes. Because essentially the divine knowledge, it's knowledge of the gods, and it's harmful to mortals. And technically, even though divine beasts are like slightly above mortals, they are still mortal. They're just very magical and can have prolonged lives as such. But I didn't want to make it exclusively like animals necessarily, because I felt like it would be nice to incorporate a little bit of like mythological creatures and whatnot too, and dragons are kind of included in that. So in a sense, Yushi is kind of part divine beast. So I'll get more into that as things progress, so I won't spoil too much for that. But yeah,
I think it covers most of the magical elements.
Yeah. Magic does like kind of come, like a lot of the, I haven't like quite gotten into like specifically spells and such, but a lot of it does like delve from chi and all that kind of stuff, as far as the like fuel for the magic source. But other than that, I think that's about it. That's all I got so far for you guys. You'll find more as the story progresses, especially since Shija's doing her learning arc too.
Right.
Anyway, moving
I'm
on.
sure Shiza will be more dumping on us at some point.
Oh yeah.
With everything she finds in those books.
She's good for the magic lore dumps.
Are there any plot elements, be they characters, locations, lore, setting details, that you weren't able to fit in the story?
Not really. I've kind of like slowly have integrated it, or it's gonna be like in future stuff. We might essentially, like, some of the stuff that I might not have necessarily gotten to yet, I might touch on eventually, be it in the main story or some of the plot. I have quite a bit of details on some of the other countries that surround Meihua, but I haven't really like touched on it much because I didn't really plan to have like necessarily too much travel or anything like that, since it's kind of all centered in the capital.
I assume there will be field trips out to the island states and the city of Wall, I believe.
We'll see. Depends on what the fingies do.
They
But
feel
yeah.
too established of locations to not be readdressed and revisited at some point.
Yeah, so well, there'll be a little bit here and there. If anything, definitely stuff with Buala will be covered in a prequel for Shuya, since I was kind of like planning on writing his lead up to that time in that, and then his time in Buala itself. let's see how that goes whenever I get around to doing that. Prequels and fun stuff. But yeah, I feel like even though I've like kind of recycled a little bit here and there from the original version of the story and like the fan fiction I brought it from, I feel like there hasn't necessarily been anything that I haven't been able to kind of fit in, be it now or in the future. So I feel like so far so good on that front. I don't think there's actually like any characters that I haven't been able to like kind of trickle into the story. Everyone has their place. I haven't like cut any characters or anything like that.
If anything, you can't stop them from getting into the story too early.
Yeah. My brain has its set ways, and then my fingies have their own ways, so we'll see when certain characters pop up. Because there are more characters that you guys haven't seen, obviously, with the 2 other upper court members you guys haven't seen yet, and then I have some fun stuff from like past integrations and future stuff, so it all in due time.
I think in due time, indeed. I believe we're ready for the next one.
Yes. Oh, long.
What inspired the creative process of forging the relationships between your characters? In terms of not only the dynamics and pairings, but also the pacing and how their personalities complement / clash with one another.
My fingies do what they want. That's a big chunk of it. A lot of the times when I'm writing characters, they kind of write themselves.
Because once you get an idea of how a character reacts to a situation and what their thoughts and feelings are and stuff, a lot of the time it's just channeling the character.
Pretty much. I have like these little seeds, essentially is the best way to describe it. I had seeds when I create a character. It's like, I want them to be like a combination of this character and this character, or whatever, you know, inspiration from various media. And I take inspiration from all over the place. I don't go necessarily from one source of media, because I'm a story slut. I'm good for, I like different story, and I latch on to different characters and whatnot. And then as I write them, they change. Throughout, not necessarily through character development, but sometimes they're very different from how I initially think them. And my fingies like to do things on their own sometimes, like I said. Sometimes writing stuff out, it just flows onto the document. And sometimes I have to forcibly correct it sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's not always a ton of that. Sometimes I just roll with it and just adjust accordingly. But yeah, so hang on. Let me hydrate a little bit.
I will be doing that immensely after this.
I mean, if you need a break, you can go get some too.
Oh, I'll be gone for more than a little bit after we're done. So let's continue on.
Yeah.
I suppose most of the answer to this question is just vibes and character inspirations.
Kinda, yeah.
Really, it is really a situation by situation basis per character.
Yeah, they evolve on their own. But yeah.
And it appears to be our last Q&A question. It is, what major hurdles or roadblocks have you stumbled across while writing?
Writer's block.
Writer's block.
That's usually the main thing. Sometimes also, you know, my fingers getting a little too carried away. Like the chapter 28 incident.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't come across too wishy-washy. That's my big concern because of me having to rein in my brain very hard. But if I have to rewrite it as I go through, I will. There's not very many chapters I've like overall rewritten. I think there was only one major chapter I've rewritten, but I don't even remember what chapter that was now. It was so long ago.
Was it prior to the double digits? Was that in the
It was around there. It's like around that exchange, I think. This is within that frame. I know I added another chapter in that section as well. That wasn't initially written when I was doing my bulk writing, but yeah. But yeah, I don't know if there's necessarily anything too crazy. I feel Fair Trade, I've had the easiest time writing it all. That's why I've been writing it so much in the past year. Because I don't have anything usually too crazy. And when I run into writer's block, I usually work on like either a later part of it or just go draw for a while. Do some art for it, and it usually helps clear it up. Yeah, I don't always jump ahead when I write, but occasionally I'll add a little bit in here and there. Just when the notion strikes me. It's better to like look forward to plot points to write. It motivates me a lot more in writing some of the like duller stuff, some of the like in-between stuff. But yeah.
Creating those plot points to work towards and filling in those gaps. Definitely a good motivation driver.
For sure. That's my secret chat. That's how I write so much in order. Don't necessarily, like, you can jump around, but don't necessarily write all the plot points you're looking most forward to.
No, because if you jump one plot point ahead, then you can work towards it. But if you jump too many ahead and you get a change 3 or 4 chapters back, you're gonna feel real bad about wasting all that work.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. Let me check if there's been any last minute additions to Q&A. Nope. So that's currently it for Q&A portion.
We've already bumped an hour, so that's not too bad.
Yeah. Let me see if there's any fun stuff in my big old document of notes here.
While you're looking for that, I might as well ask the question. How many people did you have looking at Hysteria when you started writing it? And how have you felt with I believe it's just Zen and I for the moment, looking over Fair Trade while you read it.
It's very handy. I appreciate having feedback on how things work, or even just grammatical corrections that I've missed, because I usually miss a lot of them. As seen when you've been going through the stuff I've already edited.
It's just one of those things where you do definitely need a set of fresh eyes to look over something.
And sometimes I actually do get a little too into reading this, so I like stop. The editing brain sometimes turns off.
It's when I had more time to read through stuff, I would actually do a reading pass, get the idea of what's going on, and then do an editing pass where I just skim it page by page.
Yeah.
But as of now, I'm just catching things as I read through them.
I was actually, when I was skimming through this week, I've actually found stuff that we've all missed. And I was like,
fantastic.
oh! So if I get around to doing like a proper publishing of it or anything like that, I might hopefully we'll be able to catch them all before that.
Would be a good idea.
Yeah. It'll probably take us several more pass-throughs before then, but I don't know if I will or not. For anybody who is wondering that, depends if you guys want like a physical copy or something like that.
I think a
pretty much
physical
the
copy
only perk.
An amazing thing to have would be a very, very big endeavor.
Yeah, well, it's not too hard through Amazon's publishing stuff. It's just a matter of figuring out where I'm gonna cut it. I'm getting very close to where I might consider cutting the first book. If not, I've already gotten there. I don't know where I'm gonna cut it. It's not as easy as it is with Mysteria.
I think you, if you were to cut it, it probably... I'm not sure.
It's definitely around some of the currently unreleased chapters. I just don't know exactly which chapter.
Honestly, actually, I think it would be earlier.
Oh, yeah?
I think if you were to cut it right now to, like, get a book out, you would cut it right after you send the Islanders out.
Okay.
I think you cut it there because
that's not too bad as far as that goes.
You set up big conflict. You've already dealt with some other things. You already get the ball rolling in the first book, and then you have a lot of other things to address in book 2.
Yeah,
and it also sets up a very nice opening for book 2 of the introduction of more characters, the furthering of the Juillet business plot.
Yeah, it's true.
Which wasn't too relevant towards the end of where I said book 1 should be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that would probably be a good point to cut it.
And then, what is that, 22, 23 chapters would be a good...
Especially since
since
I do such beefy writing, it's definitely a lot of pages already there.
Yeah, that sits around 22 chapters. I think that's a 22 chapters, 300 something pages. That's a very good first book.
Listen here, you piece of shit. But yeah. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. I don't know exactly how I'm gonna go about that. Yeah, that's like 300 something pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'm not beefy writing, so what can I say? Yeah, because if you actually look at the timeline overall, which please don't look too closely, because like some of this last arc might be a little scuffed. But yeah, it's very short time period since the beginning of the story. Like,
yeah,
chronologically, it's been like maybe 2 weeks ish.
Yeah. I would argue less sometimes.
Yeah, it might be less. It isn't that much at all.
No, I believe if you were to start cutting it down into books, 22 is probably a very good bookend chapter.
Yeah, we'll see. That's future me problems. Going through that's gonna be difficult. I don't have InDesign anymore, so it might be a little hard to set up a PDF for that. InDesign made it super easy to do, but I don't have Adobe anymore because Adobe shenanigans.
Fuck Adobe.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. It's gonna suck to have to do like each page individually in Clip Studio though. So I don't know. I'll look into stuff. Maybe there's other programs I can use that are similar. But again, future me problems.
Yep. Any other topics you'd like to touch on before?
Yeah, skipping through that. I feel like we've touched on a lot of what I've already had written down.
Good thing we went through the Q&A before the notes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured I'd do. Because then I could just jump around my notes if I needed to. That... stuff. I've talked about that a lot in the past. Chat, any last minute questions? You can just put them in chat, you don't have to put them in Marshmallow. So otherwise we might wrap this up here. Questions, comments, concerns?
I believe our current chat member is paying attention to Groudon, which very important. I wouldn't pull them from that.
It's okay.
But I think no, this it's not a fun. It's just a fine time to wrap up.
Yeah.
To anyone watching this later, thank you for coming and watching. To the people that came and watched today, thank you for coming and watching.
Yeah, very much appreciate it. Yeah, this story is my baby. I want this story to do well, and I've been very happy it's had the reception it has so far. And I hope you all continue to enjoy it, as I will be continuing to write it. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, we'll see you all some other time in the future. Probably be joining multiplayer on Sunday. We'll see. I don't even know what we're playing. But yeah. You all have a lovely time. Next chapter comes out, I think, this coming Friday. Not today, obviously. It's still on a 2-week basis, so.
Pretty solid release schedule.
Yeah. Probably will do another like chapter preview like this last time. I don't know if I'll be able to read it or not, but we'll find out. But I already have the background set up and the sprites, so just putting it together. Oh yeah. I'll see y'all some other time. Bye for realsies. Bye.